Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Gabby and this is the Ink Bunnie, and we are going to do the end of year wrap up. So the last reviews that I did for the channel were the Benicular Readathon, which was in October. So I'm going to start from October. We're going to go through October, November, and December, and then next week I will have January's wrap up going into February. But I wanted to get these out of my head because they've been kind of bouncing around and I'm already starting to forget details. So I did film a good video summaries and reviews of each book as I finished them, but they are kind of scattered and discombobulated. They're not really like forming coherent thoughts. So I figured I would film this and we would like fill in any gaps. So yeah, the thing about doing this so late is that I only have a few of the books to like hold up and show you. So there's going to be a lot of like covers popping up in either over here or over here. And can we just talk about how adorable and how cute Mr. Snorlax is? Like, he's so comfy, y'all. So comfy. Oh my goodness. I'm getting distracted. Okay, so without further ado, let's go over the end of year books that I read in 2022. The first book that I want to talk about is something that I read right in between the Benicular Readathon, and that is Pilu of the Woods by Mai K. Nguyen, a graphic novel about friendship, loss, and growth. It follows two girls, Willow, who has some pretty heavy emotions, and they control the way she thinks, acts. She's unable to separate them. She's very much a empath, like very feeling. And one day something occurs at home and she's upset and she runs away to the woods. She realizes when she's in the woods that she probably shouldn't have done that, and she's just going to make her parents and family worry, which only gets her emotions into even more of a tizzy. While in the woods, she meets a girl named Pilu, the titular character, and she is a like wood nymph kind of character, and she has all of these siblings and she never gets any like quiet, so she has also decided to run away from home, and Willow is determined to kind of make up for her mistake of like leaving her family kind of worried. So she decides to help Pilu, who is lost in the woods, get back to her home safely. But then there's like a torrential downpour, and of course there's a lot of talk about emotions and how they can hurt or help situations, how sometimes a calm head and a level head and a cool tongue is better than tumultuous emotions. It was so precious. It was so cute. I gave it 4 carrots. It was the first thing by Mai K. Nguyen that I had read, and I really, really enjoyed it. The next book, La Specia, and it is the Legends of Arletta Hart Harrington #1 series. It's by Molly Likovich, called Riding the Headless Horseman, and it is exactly what you would imagine. It is a erotica short story about so Riding the Headless Horseman is about a witch named Arletta. She lives in Sleepy Hollow. She's lived there all of her life, and they have always told the story of the Headless Horseman, how he's death, how he rides again, and he'll take your head, and so forth and so on. While doing a tarot card reading on Halloween night, she is walking home when she is accosted by Death himself, the Headless Horseman, and he decides to take her to his abode, which is like this middle place between hell and earth, where he has like a more corporeal body. and her up, and he takes her to his house, basically, and she's freaking the fuck out because she just got kidnapped by the Headless Horseman and she thinks she's gonna die. And she asks him, "Are you gonna kill me?" And he's like, "No, I've decided to take you as my lover." And as ridiculous as the scenario sounds, it wasn't shabby. The spice was caliente, like top level. The story wasn't half bad either, and the emotions that Arletta grows to have for death was pretty legit too. Like, it wasn't bad. I gave it 4 carrots. The next book that I want to talk about in October, last book that I read in October, and it's called Jack by Layla Faye. This is also a spicy Halloween novel. I was very much like in the mood for spice this Halloween season, especially after reading 7 like children's books. As a 31-year-old adult, like, I wanted a little bit more adultness in my life. How many times can I say the word adult? Let's count. So in Jack, and it is part of the Monster Ever After series, it is considered Halloween monster erotica. In this novel, you follow a woman named Susie, who is a witch, and she keeps like trying to summon love, but every every like vision she gets is this like demonic creature. So she gives up, but in all of her attempts, she wound up opening a door to release said creature to her. This is a monster erotica. The monster that shows up is Jack. He is a jack-o'-lantern headed demon, has a human body, human male body, and a jack-o'-lantern like glowing head. It's just as ridiculous as it sounded. I didn't like it as much as Riding the Headless Horseman. I gave it 3 carrots. The spice was a bit much, to be quite honest. Like, it was already weird that he didn't have a human head. And the fact that his penis was orange was just kind of like, whoa there. It was just a frivolous, like, fun time. I didn't really have a lot of connection with Susie, and it didn't really seem like Susie had a lot of connection with Jack either. It was more like, you've teased me and now I'm here, I'm gonna take my fill. But then they end up like being together and creating a relationship and so forth and so on. Not really much to say about it. It wasn't bad. It just wasn't very substance. There wasn't a lot of substance to the story. It was very much an erotica of boy wants girl, girl wants boy, they get together, they fuck, and then that's kind of the film. That's kind of the book. So it was an interesting time for sure. We're moving into November now. The first book I finished in November is Bite Back, Library of Teeth, book 1. It's a sensual romantic story about a classic student named Henrietta who is being courted by a vampire professor named Dorian. He is part of a poly trio of vampires who want to take her as a mate. She goes to a prestigious college, Davidson College, I'm pretty sure, and they have this like secret society that hunts vampires. And she's trying to figure out who's part of the society and how to save her new friends and whether she wants to be turned into a vampire, things of that nature. I gave this 4 carrots. It was pretty good, but most of the carrots come from the build-up. I feel like she wrote this all at one time and then cut it right in half. right when it was getting good, because I was like, oh, what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen? And then the book was over, and for some reason I did not continue the series. Maybe I'll do that this year. I don't know what I was thinking. So I don't know what happens in book two. But the build up got there, and then it just was like completely cut off. So I am interested in seeing what happens next. I did like the story. The spice was okay. I think it was more interesting that they were classics students. They went by male names, like Henrietta was Henry, and they were very comfortable in their sexuality, which I liked. A lot of the erotic novels that are out now, they always have a very dominant male or partner, like a dominant partner, and then a submissive partner. And generally, the submissive partner is the woman. She's very like coy and unsure, and he like walks her through that. So it's nice to see a woman that is sure of herself, sexy, confident, and not concerned with what other people think about her. It was interesting. Still in November, I started and DNF'd The Violin Conspiracy by Brendan Slocum. I got about 17% through this novel before I DNF'd it. I was very excited because it was pitched as this black mystery with a black main character who is a classic violinist, and a mystery occurs that he has to solve, and it's kind of like a race against the clock. What I received was a black story where I didn't even make it 17% of the way through, and I had already encountered the N-word 4 times, heavy racism, heavy racial undertones, and almost all of that was pointed at the main character, almost inherently by the main character. Like, it wasn't like someone else was calling him the N-word, he was calling himself the N-word multiple times within like the first 2-3 chapters. And that was very unnerving to me, so I DNF'd it. Like, if you use the word cool, if you're black, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to use the N-word with an A for me and my friends. It was dismissive. It was cruel. It was to put himself down. And it was the hard ER, which bothers me tremendously. So I did not continue the novel. The next book I read was Mystery at the Masked Ball, which is clue number 4, written by A.E. Parker. Yeah, A.E. Parker. I actually have that physical copy here. It's cute. I thought it was going to be like short mystery stories, but they're actually like puzzles. So they're short puzzle mysteries that you can solve, and they don't connect. They're basically like mini mysteries, and then they have like some pages in the back for notes, and they basically tell you everything that you need to know. And then once the story is over, there's a page that reveals what the correct answer to the mystery is. I liked it. I gave it 4 carrots. The next book that I read was Death by Design, which is Nancy Drew Case File 30. And I actually found a review for this, so I'll let previous Gabby take it away. Okay, so we got to talk about this book, Death by Design by Carolyn Keene, Nancy Drew Case Files, number 30. I gave this book 5 stars. I just finished it like 15 minutes ago, and it is the most wild ride I have ever been on with Nancy Drew. Now, the reason I love Case Files is because it's such a more adult story. There's romance, there's danger, there's murder, there's poison, there's intrigue. This book had almost all of the above. This book was a fucking wild ride. So the gist of the summary says that Nancy stalks a poisoner through Chicago's high fashion jungle. After receiving a series of death threats, hot young fashion designer Kim Daly calls Nancy Drew to investigate. At first, this seems like a simple case of jealous rivals, but suddenly the competition gets murderous. Kim's pet dog is poisoned, and Nancy discovers that she too is a victim. The teen detective finds herself racing for her life. If she doesn't find an antidote for the poison fast, she'll be DOA, dead on arrival. And bro, they were not flipping kidding. So they get to Chicago, her and Bess, and they walk into the office, and Kim, security, okay? She's got a receptionist, a bodyguard. You got to have an ID before you can even enter the door to the level of her office. Like, she is not playing no games. And yet and still, stuff is still happening. She lets Nancy and Bess in, goes over everything that she knows, introduces her staff to her, including her sister, Morgan, and then she gets a threatening phone call, and then a fucking bomb goes off. And that's all I'm going to tell you, because I don't want to spoil the rest of it, because you got to read this one. It was so much. Like, we've got a freaking poisoner. Nancy is like slowly becoming less like herself because of the poison. Like, it is literally eating her alive. Like, I know that Nancy was going to survive because I am young enough to realize that the entire series has been completed. So obviously Nancy doesn't die. But like, bro, had I read this when it came out, I'd have been unsure. I'd have been real worried about Nancy's ass because I did not think she was going to make it. This one was so crazy. I gave Death by Design 5 carats. And so far, I do think this is my favorite Nancy Drew case files. Next book I read was A House at the Bottom of the Lake by Josh Malerman. I've heard a lot about this book, and it's been recommended multiple times by multiple different people. But the reason I finally decided to pick it up was that I wanted to expand my reading tastes a little bit. And I heard that this was kind of like atmospheric horror kind of deal. And I was excited to experience that and see if that was something that I enjoyed. Spoiler alert, it was not. I gave this book 3 carats. It has been pitched as horror every time that I have seen it. Like, anytime anyone talks about it, it was so scary, it was so atmospheric, like you were one with the characters, you were one with the water, and you didn't know what was going to happen, and you had that like feeling of unease, like horror should be. That is not what I received from this book whatsoever. It is about 2 teenagers that decide to go on a date. And while they're on a date on the lake, they realize that there is a house at the bottom of a lake. So, like, there's the big lake that everybody goes to, and then there's, like, the small lake that they were going to have a picnic at, and then there's some shrubbery, and they're like, oh, let's, like, explore the shrubbery. So they go past the shrubbery, and there's, like, this really narrow tunnel, and then they get through the tunnel, and then there's a smaller lake that is completely enclosed except for that tunnel to get out. And in that lake, there is an entire, like, 2-3 story home in the lake. I did not find this book scary. I did not think that this book constituted horror whatsoever. At most, I would give this book a romantic suspense. The entire story revolves around the 2 main characters and their date and their growing feelings for each other and their growing obsession with not only themselves, but what they have experienced and the fact that they just want to keep, like, the house a secret between them as they explore it. I definitely got the hints of obsessiveness. I definitely got the twinge of, like, the butterflies of a first date, but horror, nowhere close. I finally decided to pick it up because it's Lala Book's favorite, and I really like the kinds of books that she reads. Like, we have a lot of books in common, and generally I never led astray, but this one was, it just, I don't think it was for me. Maybe it was a more like pretentious horror that I just wasn't able to pick up on, and I'm just like this aloof dork that didn't get it. But it was not scary or horror centered to me whatsoever. Looking at it as a romantic suspense story, however, it was decent. I gave it 3 carrots. The next book that I read in November is Monster Mayhem by Christopher Eliopoulos. And I also have a review for this from previous Gab, so I'll let her take it away. Okay, so it's also the 16th of November. I have just completed Monster Mayhem by Christopher Eliopoulos. It's part of the Cosmic Commando series, which I've never heard of before. I saw this at the library and thought it was super cute, and it had black main character, so I figured I would pick it up. It's about a girl named Zoe who is very, very good at robotics and not so good at making friends. Her first attempt shows that humans can be more fallible and not as trustworthy as robots that you build yourself. So she decides from that point on that she no longer needs friends and she can do everything herself. She's a huge fan of kaiju movies, and one day she discovers a magic ring on the ground, and that ring grants her the wish of her very own kaiju. His name is Chomp. But Chomp brings with him more issues than she originally thought. For instance, he's always hungry, and his favorite thing to eat is buildings. And she doesn't want him to eat the city. And he also has a really big family, and that family misses him. So when his kaiju family comes to the city to come get him, more buildings get eaten. So with her fantastic robotic prowess, she starts to build robots that can not only create other robots, but create other cities. And her hope is to steer the kaiju away from eating her own. The story is super adorable. I'm going to give it 4 stars. It had me tear up a little bit. And it really is about the power of friendship. Like, it was so cute. Loved this graphic novel very much. I'm always a big proponent of books that have characters that look like me, especially since that's not very often found. Also, she was a robotics genius, science geek. Like, I thought that was super adorable. Her love of kaijus just made me fall in love with her even more. So I really liked this graphic novel. I gave it 5 carrots. The next book I want to talk about is Garlic and the Witch by Brie Paulson. And this is the second book in the series. The original book is Garlic and the Vampire. And this was so cute. So, like, I feel like she just reached her hand in my chest and just tugged on my heartstrings. Like, everything that, like, a young adult is feeling, and even a new adult. Like, I'm 31. I still have serious bouts of anxiety. I still don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my life. I still feel like sometimes I'm not doing the right thing. I still feel like sometimes I need help. And all of those feelings are encapsulated in this graphic novel, along with the feeling that now you're on to bigger and better things, and as an adult, as a new adult, a young adult, whatever, you can begin experimenting with what you do and don't like, what you can and can't choose, and all of that is in this book, and it's so fucking cute. Garlic is always with her friends. She's always surrounded, but ever since Garlic and the Vampire, she's been kind of pushed into situations where she needs to make decisions on her own, where she needs to be more confident about her own decision making. And Witch Agnes decides to send her on a mission because she is trying to create a vegetarian blood substitute for the Count so he doesn't, chomp on people. And she needs some ingredients from a magic market that's far from where they live. And of course, Agnes can't go. She has to take care of the castle, the count, all of the other vegetable creatures that live in the valley. So she signs Garlic up for the journey. And then also, this is not a spoiler because it's in the summary, but Garlic is experiencing a lot of changes, not only just whether or not she can start making decisions for herself, but also physical changes. Like, they are all drawn with like 2 or 3 fingers, and then suddenly she's growing more fingers to where she has a full-fledged hand. I'm not going to tell you too much more about that because it is in the summary, but I think it's an integral part of the plot to why she is growing more fingers. And so I am just going to kind of cut it off here. I loved it. It was amazing. I love this entire story. Garlic is so adorable. Brie Paulson is doing the damn thing. I'm so excited to see if there's going to be a third one because I didn't even know that there was a sequel. Randomly, I came across this on Instagram and I was like, I must have it. So I went to Barnes & Noble and I picked it up. So 5 Carats, loved it, adorable. December. That was the first book of December that I read. The second book of December was 12 Sleighs of Christmas, which is part of the Christmas Tree Farm Mystery series by Jacqueline Frost. I was feeling very like mood mystery-esque. I wanted some Christmas thrillers, some Christmas mysteries, Christmas themed mysteries. This is a trilogy. There are 3 books in the series. I was very excited when I found this last year, 2021, but I never got a chance to read it. Christmas became very hectic, and I just didn't get a chance to kind of dive in. So in 2022, I was like, when Christmas comes around, December comes around, I want to start reading some Christmas-themed mysteries. Again, this was pieced to me as a murder mystery with a small town and a time clock that she's got to capture the killer before they strike again. I didn't get any of that. It was more of a romantic, cozy story with a sprinkle of murder in it. It's very much grumpy and sunshine, and it's about the main character who's the daughter. She was going to get married to somebody, but he cheated. And then she came home with Holly. That's her name. Okay. So Holly is engaged. They're going to have this huge wedding. Everything is going wonderful. Then she finds out that her fiance is cheating on her. She calls the wedding off and she packs up all of her things and drives down to her hometown, which is a Christmas-based town. I think it's called like Mistletoe or something. Yes. Mistletoe, Maine. And in Mistletoe, everything is Christmas all the time. They have tree farms, they have activities, like the whole night. They've got reindeer, okay? They got the whole night. They also have a new sheriff. What is this? Gray. So we have a new sheriff. His name is Evan Gray, and he is getting used to home, like that cozy small town life when a woman from the Historical Society ends up murdered on the tree farm that Holly's parents own. Together, they work together to try and solve the crime, but mostly it seems like Gray wants to pin it on Holly's dad because he was like the last person to see her alive and she wasn't well liked. So to prevent her parents from having any issues or the farm staying closed for long periods of time where they can't have guests, they can't make money because he's investigating, she decides to open up her own investigation, which in and of itself should have been a fun and integral part of the plot, but really it was a slow burn with very little mystery. It was, it dragged. It was very sporadic. At times, I forgot that there had even been a murder. Like, it wasn't, to me, it wasn't coherent as a mystery. It very much felt like a slow burn romance. And then she was like, oh yeah, this is supposed to be a mystery, and throw bits here and there. I liked Holly. I didn't like Gray. They definitely had like a slow burn. And then once they like, it didn't even ignite. It was just very lackluster. I did not like it at all. I gave it 3 carrots. The next book I read in December was Stalking Jack the Ripper by Carrie Maniscalco. This is the book club pick for December with Bree and Sarah. The last time we picked a book to read together, Good Girl, Bad Blood by Holly Jackson, I could not put the book down. I was constantly ahead. I had to hide it from myself. Like, I was so enthralled. That was not the case with this. And I don't know what it was. I just did not like the book. I wound up giving it 3 carrots. I have a more in-depth review from when I finished it, which took forever. I basically read this book the entire month. I started 2 days before December, and then I finished it New Year's Eve, 12/31, because I was like, I am going to be damned if I take this book into the new year. Absolutely not. So I will let past Gabby take it away and tell you a little bit more. It's 318 pages. It's rather thick. It was rather daunting. And although I love stories about Jack the Ripper, I just could not get into this for the life of me. I wouldn't go as far as to say that I wanted to DNF it, but I was just not interested. I was reading it piece by piece by piece, and it was just not grabbing me as much as I wanted it to. It's about a woman named Audrey Rose who is sneaking out to attend postmortems with her uncle, who's a undertaker, and helps the police with autopsies and things of that nature, which is right up my alley. It's a period piece. It's in Victorian London. It's about Jack the Ripper. We have a strong female main character who is learning a science that is not privy to her and pushing the boundaries of what women can do in her society. This should be right up my alley, but for some reason I was just not having it. It was just not grabbing me. I just finished it, all 318 pages. I'm gonna go ahead and give it a 3 because the last 100 pages made up for the rest of the book. I wish it had moved faster. I really don't know what could have fixed this. I don't really know what could have made this more up my alley, made me want to read it faster, devour it, what have you. It had a lot of characters that I just did not care for, and I saw who did it coming 10 chapters before it got there. And then the one character that I was interested in, the main character's not interested in. So I was like, ooh, love interest, yay. But they're gone now and probably are not going to appear. This book is actually book 1 in a series of 4. But it took me so long to finish this. I highly doubt that I'm going to read the other 3. I know that the other 2 ladies in my book club loved the book, so I might be stuck reading book 2 or book 3, but after this, I really can't see myself going back and reading it even more. Even though I liked the last 100 pages, loved the ending, loved the reveal, all of that ending stuff, it was not enough to make up for the other 200 pages of just unnecessariness. I know you had to have the murders. I know you had to set up the clues. I know you had to set up the characters. I know that sometimes giving characters backstories and depth and whatever is not as fun as the murder part. But it's 200 pages of nothingness, basically. This just wasn't for me. it just wasn't. And this is probably going to be the last book that I finish in 2022. So oof, I'm going to give it 3 stars. Let's see if I can finish something else. I honestly can't believe that it's about to be 2023. Like, 2022 needs a fucking speeding ticket. And I also am going to do a lot more book reviews in 2023. And I'm bringing back monthly wrap-ups because for some reason I stopped recording in like June. So look forward to that. And hopefully I can slide in a couple more books this month. I do still have the rest of today. Sunday is the 1st. So I have the rest of today to finish something else. And we'll see how that goes. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Hop out. So yeah, I did not feel it. I gave it 3 carrots. It was not for me. And I'm so sad because the other girls really liked it. And everything that's this book is supposed to be about sounds right up my alley, but the execution just was not for me. The next books that I read are physical in my hand, and these finish out the year. These were the last 2 books that I read. I finished them both on 12/31/2022. So the first one I want to talk about is Ants in Our Pants by John Patrick Green. It's an investigators series. And then I want to talk about Braver and Bolder from the investigator series. This is 4 and 5 respectively. So in 4, which I loved, you have a maestro astronaut who wants to create a group of supervillains to combat the investigators' goody two-shoe streak in the city. It's wild. It's fun. There are new fun characters. There are team-ups. It's everything. I gave this 5 carrots. And this is probably my favorite. This is definitely my favorite of the last 3. And probably my second favorite out of the whole series. And then in Brave and Bolder, they are getting back into the swing of things. And there are these glowing rocks that become very popular, kind of like a pet rock. And everybody wants to have one. And they're all coming out of this like seedy antique shop. And then all of a sudden, one day, they all just disappear. So they are on a mission to figure out what happens. And the mission is ridiculous and fun all at the same time. And it's just a great time. Like, the Investigator series is just all out fun. Like, there's no other way to explain it. Oh, I gave this one 5 carrots. These were the last books that I read in 2022. I finished the year out with 68 novels, which is beyond. My goal was 55, and I didn't even think I was going to reach that. A lot of the books this year had been really amazing, and I was just so thankful to be able to get through them and enjoy them. So with that being said, now we're in a new year. And the Ink Bunnie goal for 2023 is 65 books. I'm just going to keep going up by 10 and seeing just how many I can finish. There is going to be a January wrap-up coming out soon since it's about to be February. I still have about 5 more days in the month, so I'm not going to film it yet because I might still finish a book or 2. But so far, I am 5 books into my goal. So I only got 60 left for the year. So I'm doing pretty darn good. And I've had a few winners this year. So I'm excited to see what the new year brings in terms of reading. This video is like 30 minutes. I need to go cut it down and edit it. So I'm going to go ahead and sign off. Thanks so much for watching me. I'm Gabby. This is the Ink Bunnie, and I hope you have a great time. Bye.